you know, by having a key here, it doesn't mean that I know how they're changing values. It's basically saying like, I know my car is gonna be here at 8 and it's gonna be here at noon, okay? But there's something very crucial that's missing here. It's like how the car is gonna get there. Hey, welcome to Animating in UEFN. This is supposed to be your first 10 minutes, but what I want you to take away from this video is a little bit of planning. It's always good. Let's organize our actors, you know, populate our sequencer, and then spend some quality time in the graph editor, really tweaking those curves, understanding how to make them work for us, to your vision. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are. We have a default map, UEFN. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Let's give Uncle Pete a opening shot of his pizzeria. Let's see. Maybe I like this angle better. You can always use your mouse wheel to, as long as you're clicking. I like to right click to navigate, and we use the mouse wheel to change the speed on the fly. So what you want to do, you want to right click here on your content browser. If it's not visible, for some reason you have it off, you can hold Control and space. You jump from the bottom here, and then you dock in layout, and it's gonna stay there. This is gonna be a floating window. You can place it anywhere. Another monitor. When you drag it, you see there's hints here where it could eventually land. I like to drop it when it's as a yellow bar, so it takes all the space here. All right, so you right click anywhere in your content browser. You know, I like to use my island content here. If you want to keep it even tighter, you can have a folder, you know, you're going to be doing a lot of it. So make a folder if you need. Right click, and without hovering anywhere, I like to keep it over here, my cursor. I just start typing. So I'm going to type sequence, and we get the level sequencer, or a level sequence, and I'm going to rename it demo level sequencer. I'm going to save it. So this is going to appear often, you know, this is your save content. It's basically saying what's the asset you're changing, where it's located, and the type. This is great to keep track because you want to save and, you know, keep changes on assets that you're intentionally changing. So keep an eye on that. For now, I'm going to hit save, and you see the asterisk is gone, and there's a plus. The plus is basically saying this has been added, you know. So when you check your changes on the map, by the way, UEFN manages this brilliantly. It basically does all the asset tracking, asset, you know, saving backup for you. As a creator, what you can say, hey, this is the list of changes I prepared. These are all intentional. You're basically giving a description. For example, you know, start project here, and you know, it's saying I'm checking out a few files for you. I'm adding new assets for you. So yeah, let's go ahead, save that, and no more changes. It's all saved. It's a green, you know, the revision control is green, and now you have like a saved state of your scene. So anything you do now as a change, it's gonna be tracked. So this is super, super powerful. And we just made our first demo sequence here. Let me double click. Rio's gonna give us a sequencer. That's also a floating window. You can grab it by the tab. So once we're in the sequencer, let's see what we need. Well, we're definitely gonna need a camera. So I'm gonna create one here. And you see there's a slight jump from the framing I used to have, because this is a new lens. I can come back if I need. The lens is just an attribute here. You can add it. So I'm minimizing here just for quick review on what we're getting when we click on a new camera. He's giving us a camera cut track for free. You can delete it and, you know, create it again at any time. You can right click and then just type cut anywhere, and it will give you the camera cuts. This is great if you want to have multiple cameras, you know, and then it's gonna manage which camera is visible at any given time. So let's say if I make a new camera here, then we have a camera actor 2 and camera actor 3, and right now it's only actor 3 camera that's being added. We can delete it anytime. So the camera cuts, we can say, hey, you can add this camera here. At any time when you have your camera cuts track, you can simply say, hey, please add either one of the existing cameras here. So let's say, let's add camera 2. And it's gonna fill all the way. You can make it shorter. You can add again. Hey, add 3 now. And they're gonna coexist now, right? So when camera 2's here, you can see on the little description box, we're gonna change to camera 3, right? So why we're not seeing any change? Because this is the camera that's being active right now. At any time, just click on the lock viewport here. This little camera is basically saying, hey, Unreal, I want this camera to be displayed now. So if I'm on a camera cuts and this is a scene camera 2 actor here. So the camera cuts basically, okay, I'm gonna act like the camera 2 now. And once the little clip is over, then I'm gonna act like camera 3, okay? So I like to think it as a camera because in the future, what you can do, you can right click the camera cuts, you activate the cam blend attribute, and look what you get. Now, it's not a harsh stop. They can actually, begin blending, right? So you can have multiple ideas and places in space that you want to be, and you can have those cameras, each one of them kind of deal with different events, and then the camera cuts can say, hey, okay, so I'm gonna give you a transition between those 2 cameras. So this is really cool, and you can probably change the type of curve you want to go, like harsher curves or an accelerated curve. See, you get all types of transitions here. So this is kind of working as a faster zoom. So very, very interesting. You can play with that for sure. And so this is the options submenu. It can be linear as well, more mechanical. So it's up to you. We see case by case. It's super interesting. There's no right or wrong here. It's really up to you. Okay. Alrighty then. So let me save that. I'm gonna keep this transition here. At any time with any of those cameras, you can select the little camera here. And notice what happens here in the viewport. Now I'm piloting this camera. So if I actually move it here, and rotate it a little bit, so I'm positioning that camera. So let's say I want this angle. Okay, maybe more chairs here. Let's say, can I move this? Yeah. I'm gonna start moving stuff to get the compositions that I think are more interesting. Let's see, on the clean logo, almost there. You can also move stuff here. If you know the axis you're working on, you can always, give it a try. And okay, let's say I'm happy with this. So now if I'm back to my camera cuts, I have no keys added, no keyframes yet. Just planning, just like rough position of stuff. So notice how the transition still respecting that choice, it's trying its best to apply this curve and transition between those 2 cameras. So that transition includes the lens, the position, the rotation. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same with the camera 2. So I see here it's piloting. You can eject at any time, and then we're gonna just basically go to the regular viewport. It's not the camera cuts, that's the viewport camera. If I want to see the camera cuts, we gotta lock it here. And if I want to pilot the camera 2, I select it, and I want to go something like that. Let's see what happens. I can't see, right? So as long as I have it locked here, now we're gonna see how the transition is going. So why not? Okay, that could be interesting. I'm gonna try to add more animations later on each of those cameras. So right now, I'm gonna call this my planning. Oh, I know I want this transition to happen, and saving everything, save the sequencer. So, okay, that's an okay starting point. So right now we have the camera from above, right? I wanna rename those. So you can always come here and type F2 or rename, and I'm gonna type cam pizza above. Same for the other. Let's try F2 now. So cam pizza close. Okay, so focus on this for now. That's one transition. No keys were added yet. Okay, this is all for free. Just by selecting a very nice curve here and placing the 2 cameras in smart positions, you can get interesting results, right? So there we have it. Now, let's add another element here to our sequencer, which is some curves. Let's add an actual curve. So I want to try to add some movement here to this camera, so it's not absolutely static. I'll try to kind of make it like an arrival or something, you know? Let's say we're showing where in the map this is, so we're coming from high above and then zooming in to the, you know, street view. So for this camera, you know, it added a transform here for us. So the transform here doesn't have any keys, but it does have values. So the values that we changed, so for locations like where in the world it's located, no keys yet, okay? So a roll is basically how you incline to the sides, okay? Then we have the pitch, which is the up and down here, looking up. It's all rotation. It's all in the same position. And then the yaw, which is what we would call a pan type of movement in cinema. It's always more fun to pilot, position, you know. And so let's call this position that we are right now, I'm gonna call it like the final position before we transition here. So right about here, I'm gonna say, hey, save this position, okay? So if I keep my mouse here in the location line, it's gonna add a key on that time, on that frame, for all the locations. If I didn't want to save on all locations, you can just save each one of them, okay? Each one individual as you need. We have an auto key function. So if that little button is blue, mean it's active, it will mean that, let me go back to the position I want here. I want all transforms. I already deleted the scale. I know I'm not gonna be playing with scale on camera right now. So I made a transform key for everybody. And from my first frame, I'll be holding the right click, which, you know, allows me to rotate. And I'm gonna navigate with the W, S, D, and A keys. So I can fly my camera on the air. And remember, if it's too fast or too slow, you can spin the mouse wheel, and you notice here the number next to the camera, this number changes. You can also change it manually here, okay? You can also use the Q to go down and the E to go up. So with these controls, you basically can place the camera anywhere. So let's begin kinda here, I guess. Let me see, I'll try to get some of the building, like a nice neighborhood shot. Let's see, would that work? Let's try. Go back to the camera cuts. Let's play. Right, so it's, you know, it's doing something. So it's animating an interpolation between position and rotation here, position and rotation here, right? But then it's already adding some of the keys of the blend, okay? This is an automatic animation Unreal's giving us. This is also happening here. There's something here that is affecting how these curves transition. This is already happening. I'm just not seeing it. So just, you know, by having a key here, it doesn't mean that I know how they're changing values. It's basically saying like, I know my car is gonna be here at 8 o'clock and it's gonna be here at noon, okay? So I know where, but there's something very crucial that's missing here. It's like how the car is gonna get there. Is it gonna be like rolling? Is it gonna be super fast at the start and then I'm gonna stop and then I'm gonna go again? So it's not clear, the trajectory. And we have examples here on the camera cut. So you see it's very slow and then it speeds up and then it slows down again. That's why we're having this interesting effect here. So that feels good, especially if you're playing a game or making a cinematic within a game. That's cool, you know? So we're gonna play with the speeds now, how these values are changing. So let's open our graph editor here. It's this icon next to the FPS. So let's open that, and that's gonna give us the graph. Don't be scared. This is our best friend. This is where we get the results we need. So I like to place them in parallel. So I know I want to play with the camera above. the transform of that camera, the locations and the rotations, right? Okay, so I'm piloting the camera cuts. So here we have a few functionalities that are important to keep in mind. One of them, it's the type of view. So curves change value, you know, imagine you go from 1 to 10, these are like smaller values, but rotation, you might go from 20 to 80, you know, so those values, they're gonna be not necessarily proportional. So in order to really see the curves, I recommend you keeping it normalized for now. So normalizing makes it whatever it's the lowest key and the maximum key, it's gonna call it 0 and 1 and gonna show you just the drawings between them, just the transitions. You can mouse wheel in and out, and you can use the right click to drag and see the curves here. And you see how we get that kind of drawing as well. So it's kind of a slow start, then like a more steady middle, and then it slows down. This is happening with all the curves. And this is like a automatic way of making those transitions. That's why if you don't open your graph editor, probably your cameras might be feeling a little mechanical, a little, you know, kind of the computer did the camera instead of somebody really, you know, intentionally piloting those cameras. And so notice here again, it's a different type of drawing. And it's up to us, like what type of drawing we want to add. We want to decide this camera should be. So I want this shot to begin linearly. I don't want it to start totally static. So I want to begin this shot with the camera already going down, right? Let's give it a try. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the transforms. So they're a little, you know, overlapping each other, but they're all here, okay? So I'm happy when I switch to a value and then it shows up already. So that's super important. Right on. So let's see for location. I'm gonna grab the initial keys. So the keys are the value in time, okay? So when you hold and you drag, you see here on the little box, you see the name of the attribute, it's location Y at the end, you see. So this is the time and this is the value. But there's, you know, there's a problem. If I change a value here, I don't see any change. So I highly recommend you, when you're doing any type of change like this, bring the cursor somewhere that you can actually change this value and you can actually see what's happening. So that's really like the power of the graph editor, is by having the time there and I'm polishing those curves, making decisions like, okay, I don't want to cut this sidewalk, you know, it's gonna be nice. Okay, too much rock, I don't want. It'd be nice to get some of the sea. Is it the red one? Yeah, maybe that one. But I don't want to get too much, you know, further from the pizza. So these types of choices you leave your cursor there and you do those changes. So that's the key, okay? This is the value where it is and when it is. And now we're gonna talk about the transition. So next to each of those keys, you have those handles here. And those handles, they're gonna show you like how the transition happens. So I'm not seeing any change because it's the curve that will give you the change, right? So what's the story here? So let's isolate just the Z curve for now, okay? So what's the story that this curve is telling me? So it's telling me that the first frames, it's pretty like the same values. It's maintaining the same value. So I'm gonna bring it closer there, and it stays steady, you know. There's a soft curve here, and only around here it really starts to go down, and here's the maximum it goes down. So if I want to change, okay, I want to like maybe be slightly lower or not so low, okay? So you're gonna decide these types of things here. And then I want it to be going down more linearly, so I'm gonna use that handle and I'm gonna put it down, and I also want to have the ending more linear, okay? So now I'm telling a different story. I'm saying, hey, be falling, you know, like just keep going down. So from every frame, it's gonna be going down every frame. So let me do the same for the other attributes here. Move those handles. So see, I don't have enough detail here. how can I tell like how much of a curve it's happening here? So right click, you navigate around. Then on holding Alt, it's gonna zoom in and out. Okay, Alt and Shift, it will give you this type of behavior that if I right click and I drag it sideways, it's gonna zoom in sideways. If I drag up and down, it's gonna zoom, it's gonna, you know, scale up and down. Just the visibility. I'm not changing any value here, just the visibility, how these curves are framed. Alt Shift to control the zoom, and just right click to navigate like this. Alt Shift, then only right click. Alt Shift, up and down. So that's you can do both at the same time. Okay, so now I have much more detail here of this curve. Okay, so I'm gonna make it more linear now, like that. And let's see. Okay, so it begins, you know, on a straight line, like a drone approaching. Okay, and then it stops here. So look at the effect this is creating. That change we were seeing stops. You notice clearly which frame that stopped. See? So I'm gonna simply move them later and see if I get a better result. Make sure those are linear. Okay, so this I'm doing all manually. I'm gonna show you in a second how you can use some of these shortcuts and you're gonna have different types of curves. Let's see here. Right, so you see it's gonna be a nightmare to be managing the curve manually, and I know I want it to be linear, so you can just select them and let's use a linear interpolation, you know. Okay, so now it's literally, I even lost the handles. It's all linear. Let's do the same with the others. Linear. Okay, so that's much more precise at the cost of losing the handle. Okay. Later, you could eventually add them back. See, you set them to linear, and then you're back to cubic, and you will have the handles back. In case you need to tweak a little bit, add, you know, you don't need to lose them. You can always add them back if you want. So linear or cubic again. If I hit automatic, it will try to, you know, give it a smooth change, starting more flat. Let's keep it cubic, linear, and then cubic, and let's see what we get. That's a cool thing as well, like the time here is synchronized. So remember, we left our sequence being piloted by the camera cuts track, so all the changes we make, we can watch them here, right? So this is pretty cool. So we arrive slowly, and then we have that boom, that fast acceleration, and we are already on camera too. So around here, we still have values here. So Unreal is using those values, you know. Let's really see which frame that happens. So see, around frame 43 and until here, really, it's kind like it's 0.01%, but it's using those values. Okay, I'm gonna even take that and push them even further. If you hold Shift, then you're sure to move only the time and not the value. Okay, it will detect the first axis you begin. So let's say I want to change the altitude, okay, how high the camera is. So if I want to move this, but I only want to move the value, not the time, and I go manually, I might, you know, see here, I missed the frame 0. So what you can do, you can hold Shift and move up first, and now if I go to the sides, I'm locked to that frame, which is pretty cool. And you can set it to linear again, cubic again, do that for both keys, or you just set to linear for now. Let's see which one serves us better. So the same way, if you want to change only which frame that value happens, you hold Shift and then you drag it sideways first, and then if you go up and down, you're gonna be locked on the sides. Cool. Let's see if we could start higher. Let's see. Oh, that's too high, but it's kind of cool. So let me propose something here. Let's add a new frame. You don't need to be working only with 2 frames. You can do any drawing you want. You know, when you're in the graph editor, you have all the freedom to do the interpolations you want to match your scene. So we're gonna hit the middle mouse click anywhere on the curve, and it's gonna add a key for us. And I did it in a way that I hit and I hold the middle click, and now I can place it, you know, anywhere. Let's do another one here just for an example. Okay. Or you can just click once and you add. Okay, so I'm gonna middle click here, and I want to tell this story for this curve of, you know, it's okay to start high, but come down faster at the beginning, and then steady the way you go down. You can maybe go a little more down, and let's see. I'm gonna hit let's try the smart automatic tangents here. It will give, you know, its best to interpolate these ideas. And the way I'm approaching this, I'm basically watching, say, hey, okay, but around this time, I want the camera to be around here. Around this time, I want the camera to be around here. But only on the Z, only on the height. And then, you know, looks okay. But I still want it to start falling linearly. So let's see how that looks. Okay, that's interesting. So I think it goes too much to the left. Let's recall which one of them is controlling that. Let's find the curve again. Okay, it's back to linear and cubic. Let's see. Okay, around here, let's add a new one. Okay, so I'm okay with this axis. So I know it's the Y I need to change now. So around here, I don't want it to go too much to the left. So I'm gonna middle mouse here, and then I'm gonna kind of hold that value. You see, because I don't want to give emphasis to other buildings here. I want the pizza to be more on the center. So I'm going to place it here. Make sure this one is linear again. And let's see what happens. Alright, it's kind of a dynamic camera. Still, I feel it goes too much to the left. Let me pull it back a little bit. But here, I think it's okay. So it's really like, at some point, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be watching, making decisions on the rhythm you want. So I realized that I like how it's showing a bit of the city. I like how we arrive at the building at first, and then we kind of gravitate towards the pizza, towards the entrance. So I think I'm okay with that for now, and you can keep playing, keep, you know, working on how this transition could be smoother, right? I think it's cool. I think it's a great start, and from here you can really do the movements you want. You know, you can apply the same principles. Make sure you save your curves, you save your sequencer. It's the same save, actually, it saves both. Let's check here our changes. So these are the assets that have been changed. So I moved the chairs and the table. I added 2 cameras, and the sequencer, which is the holder of all these keys, these curves, the information, also got checked out because it has changes on it. So I'm gonna call this first pass Pete's entrance here, and I'm gonna submit those changes, and I'm good. It's all saved. You can save all here as well if you need, and there you have it. So I think that's a good start. How to get the handle, you know, how to get the hang of the graph editor, the sequencer, how to place a camera, the free transitions you get with the camera cuts blend attribute, how you can add or remove attributes here as well. You can add keys from here. You can pilot your cameras from here as well, and how to take the most of the curves and really have the transitions do what you really want them to do. So you see here, that's just the camera above that you can see in the miniature, right? But if you switch to your camera cuts and you lock to it, then any of those curves you change, they can be seen in context, okay? In the entire transition here. So that's very cool, right? If you wanna, if for any reason you have a thumbnail here in front of your viewport, you can remove, going to settings, you go to your editor preferences here, you see camera, yeah, the preview selected cameras, you just uncheck that and you're not gonna have it anymore in front, so you can really see your composition. So if you have your sequence here being played, and you can turn on looping, you can be playing here, and right click and you hit F11 if you want to have like a more immersive experience, right? You can watch for details, you have new ideas, and you keep iterating until you get the results you want, right? If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, it helps a lot. I want to know what you want to see next, so drop a comment, Drop a question if you have one, and I see you in the next time. Excited to see what you're doing with the animations in UEFN.